The views and opinions expressed during Love and Life with Lana and Dave are those only of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or the position of our podcast hosts or affiliates. Any content provided is not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. All right, let's do it.
You're listening to Love and Life with Lana and Dave, the podcast where logic is power and you take control. Thank you for tuning in and making the choice to listen in and get ideas for your own love and life. Now, here are your hosts, Lana Williams and David Vaccaro. Okay, you want to just get right into it?
Why don't we get right into it? You know, I am Lana.
Oh, fuck. I'm Dave.
I got you off guard.
You did. You just right in. Bam. Hit me.
You said you want to get into it.
I did.
I thought you were serious. So
I was serious, and
I
you took
jumped
me
right
there.
in.
Right. That's what we call logical thinking. So,
absolutely.
Should we get our oh, I'm having a brain fart. Help me. Should we get our
I don't know what you're going to say. I would help you, Dave.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
Should we do a commercial right away? Just get it out of the way.
Sure, we can do that. Stand by. This podcast is being broadcast and sponsored by. This podcast is brought to you by Nick's Place, 111 Lafayette Road, Salisbury, Massachusetts. I don't care what you're in the mood to eat when you get there. They look like a little pizza joint. The menu when you get into this place is something you have to see to believe. There's all kinds of food on this menu. Gotta check them out. 978-358-8474. They're open 7 days a week. They're open 11 to 9. They will deliver for you. And if you check them out at nicksalisbury.com, you can check the menu out right now and order yourself something to eat. If you are local to Salisbury, Mass, this is the place to go. Nick's Place, 111 Lafayette Road, Salisbury, Mass.
Oh, that's so professional. Yeah, we're not going to talk about it right now, though, because I don't want to get hungry.
Nope.
We've got a whole podcast to record for you guys this week. So
it appears Dave must not have eaten.
I don't eat yet. It's early.
Oh,
I
okay.
eat.
It's
I don't break
time.
fast. I don't break. Right. It is. It's afternoon, but I don't break fast. I actually fast for a little longer than most. And that's
okay.
That's one of my daily routines.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Well, someday, we'll look at it to Dave and his whole routine.
That's right.
And we'll put him under a microscope. We'll just, we'll get a pair of tweezers and just go right in there.
Mm-hmm. And people will wonder why.
Today's podcast,
Yes,
or
it is.
this week's podcast, my bad.
Oh, wow.
I did it.
Can you move your camera so I can see you? I'm looking at your ear. And I'd rather not. Just stay right here.
I got something for you to look at, dude. All right.
Please do.
I'm not going to go there. No. Well, you wouldn't want to. You don't want to see what I show you. I'm going to show you one of my friggin' toenails.
Ew.
Anyway, it's Sunday. Dave and I have had a long weekend.
Yes.
So today, which is this week.
Yes, it is this week's podcast.
This week's podcast, we're going to call The Logic of Communication.
That sounds exactly correct. Because I have a story.
Okay.
I'm going to tell the story. So we'll get right into it. I have a friend who's kind of going through something. And let me explain the story. And I think it makes for a perfect thing for communication. It explains why communication.
Perfect example of what we're discussing.
Yeah, it's a perfect example. I'm sorry, is my verbiage not good today?
I don't know what is going on with you. I think
don't
your brain
know.
and your something.
Maybe I didn't eat breakfast. I don't know. Could be.
Maybe.
So anyway, a friend of mine is in a relationship with a guy, and in the past he cheated on her. Okay, so they broke up. They got back together. They decide they're going to make this work. So she decides to go by his house. She called him first, of course. It wasn't just an unexpected visit. And, let me continue first by saying that the woman that he cheated with passed away. So she's no longer exists. And I know that a lot of people will go, well, then she's no longer a threat. Well, she wasn't the threat, right? Let's just get that.
That's just exactly what my brain.
I know. She was not the threat. The guy was the cheater.
But I have a morbid sense of humor. So
I know.
Anyway.
Anyway, she shows up to give him a hug goodnight. She works nights, and so she gets out of work and she's going to give him a hug and kiss goodnight, and nice, right? That's nice. So she gets there, and he's wearing a pair of pants that the girl he cheated with bought him. Now, so and basically that's what she said. That's nice, and a fight ensued because he thought she was being ridiculous because, this girl has passed away and blah, blah, blah. And okay. So he gets mad, goes off into the house. She goes home, and they haven't spoke since. Well, they did. Okay. They had a big fight, and he's like, you have no respect for the dead and blah, blah, blah. And kind of throwing it on her that it's that he would even think that it has something to do with the dead. Now, let me just look from my standpoint, what I believe, and then we'll hear what you think about that. Okay. My thought process is this. You wearing those pants is a trigger to remind her that you fucked up, right? That it brings her back to a bad place. Now, granted, she's got to get over this stuff. I get that. But it's not years have passed. That's not the case. And, by him throwing things in saying, you have no respect for the dead and, she's not a threat anymore. I said, you should, and this was my opinion, you should say, there's no difference than me showing up, giving you a hug, and you're hugging me, and you go, hey, by the way, don't forget, I cheated on you, right? It's kind of like, what's the difference? You're kind of reminding her of that. And I think it's a little bit, what I would have done is I would have said, oh, geez, I didn't realize I was wearing them. Sorry. I didn't mean to bring you back to that spot. I won't, I'll try not to wear them when you're around. That's all. And I get he wants to keep them because, he cared about this woman and she's passed, right? So you don't just want to chuck the pants or whatever. So now they haven't really spoken since a big beef ensued, and it got bad, I guess. I don't know that part of the story, but that's really not what it is. But the communication is that, in my opinion, she communicated with him and he didn't want to hear it. And that is where the problem ensues, right? In my opinion. So, it's not the pants. It's not the girl that died. It's like, hello, you just reminded me you're a cheater. It's got nothing to do with the girl that passed. So using that, well, she's passed away. You have no respect for the dead. It's got nothing to do with the dead. It has to do with the fact that I'm dating a cheater. And you're reminding me of that. Thank you very much. That's my opinion. Right. What do you think of that?
I wish I could say that it's really, really different opinion than yours, but
right.
It's we have a phrase, or at least my tribe of people have a phrase. It's called, "Is this the hill you really want to die on?" That's the phrase we use.
That's a good phrase.
And that means, okay, you have a point to make, and you is this something that you really need to do? And what's the word I want to use? In other words, there would be no reason to do that. It would almost be, again, it could be the guy's absent mind. I don't know the guy, so I don't know how.
Right. I don't either. I
don't know what his personality is. I don't know anything about his traits, so I don't know if he's the type of guy that would do something like that and not really think anything of it and not really realize something like that would. In other words, if it bothers her, I would imagine he probably shouldn't have done that in the first place and just avoided it.
Right.
That would, to me, would be the easy way to do it. But
yeah, of course.
Maybe to him it didn't make any difference, and it wasn't a big thing until she brought it up.
Right. And
but still,
I think that he brought it up, right, without bringing it up.
What I mean is, him wearing those pants in the first place, is that something he even needed to do to start with? Right. But I don't know him, so I don't know if that's something he would have absent-mindedly did. Some people really are
sure, of course,
about stuff like that.
I give him the benefit of the doubt and say he didn't even think about it. You're not thinking about it.
But even if he didn't think about it, once happened,
she said so,
he could have just. And again, I don't know who wanted to get back together and who didn't. Was it something she really wanted, and he was like, "Yeah, I guess I'll go along with it." So he didn't find it as important as she did to try to
that
work on it.
Sure. That could be the case.
Because if it was something where he really wanted it to work, that wasn't really a good way to do it.
No, right?
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So the thing about communication is there are things that, well, we'll start with the playbook and we'll go back to our first major episode. I think our first, no, we've had so many at this point.
We have.
But we did have a podcast early on called, it stems from childhood. And so you start with your playbooks.
Mm-hmm.
His is one, hers is another. Obviously,
Correct.
There's some issues in both of those that do not match.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some insecurity. I mean, cheating, I'm sorry, but if you cheat, you're causing insecurity, and it's really hard to get past that, to just be like, okay, that never happened. Don't get me wrong, therapists do want that. If you're ever trying to get over a relationship where there was an indiscretion between two people, that's usually the only way that you can ever build a new relationship, is that you really have to let go of all of it.
Right. And that's not that easy.
That would make both of them, in this case, that would make them both wrong.
And I can promise you, in her playbook,
mm-hmm.
it's not going to be easy for her. I can tell you that.
Right. It isn't easy. And me being the pragmatic person I am, it isn't easy to me isn't really a response to something like that. I mean, if it's hard, it's hard. It just needs to be done. It really doesn't matter if it's easy or not. It's just part of the way it needs to work.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to say, okay, well, this isn't easy for me to do, but I need to figure out a way to get it done, because here's my goal, which is to get this relationship back on track. So in order to do that, you have to figure out how it is you're going to get over it, because that's the only way to get it done.
Right.
So it's not easy, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Right. And I think the cheater,
they're both wrong. I think they're both wrong in that case.
Right. And I think the cheater should try to, like, I'm not going to say bend over backwards, but at least try to make it easier for the person to trust you, because they've lost trust. Right. When somebody cheats, you lose that trust. And I've heard stories many, many times where, he used to cheat on me all the time. And then when I found out, we broke up, we got back together. And I've been miserable for years because I never trusted him again. And it's like, why are you there? So there's that. Right. That's where the honesty with yourself comes into play as well. And if you're back together, regardless of anything, it's communication, right? You got to talk through this. This is not something that you're going to be able to just say, screw it. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. And that's the end of it. So
that brings me to my next comment about this story. And that is that they should have sat down at that point.
Which I don't.
And just hashed it out.
I don't believe they did. I don't know that for sure.
It doesn't sound like they did.
It doesn't sound like they did.
And I don't mean like, yelling and screaming and throwing things and slamming doors. I mean, sitting down and going, okay, let's discuss this. You take the pants off, right? You put on some sweats. You put the pants on the table. You fold them up. You go, let's look at these pants and let's get this out of the open.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was wearing these pants. I'll be honest with you. They were a gift. I shouldn't have done it. I didn't realize it was going to bother you. I'll be honest with you. It just didn't dawn on me. Okay. Well, when you do this, I feel like this. There should be just like if two people really are trying to, I don't believe in trying. I believe that you got to put your pride aside on stuff like that. The way that I like to tackle relationships, where there's an issue, and I got to be honest with you, very few people I've dated have this strategy, which is annoying. Is okay, here's a hiccup in the relationship. Here's something where the two of us disagree. Let's sit down with a pen and paper and like a blueprint and come up with a map through this thing.
Right.
How are we going to do it? Are we going to discuss this and get it out in the open? Are we going to agree? If we disagree, that's fine, but let's agree to disagree. Let's understand that we both disagree.
Right.
And then figure out how we're going to deal with it.
Exactly.
So,
I don't think that they're both on the same page. Because
I don't know that they did that.
Response, I doubt it too. His response was, get over yourself. She's not even alive.
Right.
And okay, so to me that sounds like a lack of communication hugely, because if the communication was proper, he would understand it's not about the girl. It never is, right? It's not about the girl.
Right.
It's about you, the guy, and she should say to him, look, it's right, and she should make it clear. It's not about the girl. It's about the fact that I'm with a man that cheated on me, and you're reminding me of that. And that's simply what it is.
I can go a step further here.
Yeah.
And I don't know that couples want to do this, but this really is what you should do. You should go back to the incident of the actual cheating and discuss why it happened.
Right.
Because if it didn't get resolved, that means technically it's a risk, and it's not going to.
Of course.
It could totally repeat itself.
Of course.
And it doesn't really matter who it was with. There's always another one.
That's right.
So if there's something that went on in the relationship that made somebody feel, and don't get me wrong, nobody in a relationship makes the other person cheat, because that's not what I mean by that.
Well,
obviously, everybody's responsible for their own behavior.
Correct, but I think it's partially somebody. I think it's okay. So let's say the man cheats. I think it's partially the man that's not being honest with himself or the person he's with, because he's missing something. He's looking for it elsewhere.
Right, but it isn't the other person's fault. What I'm saying.
No, correct. It's not their fault. No, it's not.
So
no,
I don't want to phrase it like, well, when somebody cheats, then you need to figure out what you did to cause that, because that's not what I mean.
No,
what I mean is, like, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the thing that, and I know that it's very hurtful and very uncomfortable to talk about something that caused that kind of a rift between two people.
Of course.
But that's really the only way to repair it at all, if you're going to go forward without like a bunch of stuff that happened like this with the pants. Because if they had discussed the issue and decided, okay, what's the thing, is there something missing? Right. If the person talking to you cannot provide you with something that's missing, I would personally want to know that before I started a whole second.
Correct, because it could be simply this, and I'm making this up. This is not has nothing to do with this couple, but it could be something. You're too crazy sexually for me, and I just wanted somebody who is like okay with straight vanilla sex, or whatever it was.
Yep.
Okay, well then if that was mentioned, then that's a problem, and I know I always go to sex, but it's just,
you do.
I understand it completely.
And we all know that you do.
So, yes, you all do. Yeah, it's not a secret.
I'll use my example. I mean, I technically, and I'm not completely emotionless, and I'm not completely affectionless, but I am a very, very slow to warm person. And if somebody's really, really hangy and they need that, they have to have that reassurance from somebody all the time that they're the number one. And I just be honest with you, I can do it, but it's just not me.
Right.
Even if I do it, you're gonna be able to tell that, like, I'm really not.
Yeah.
Genuine about it.
Yeah. So if somebody came to you,
something that's missing. I think a lot of cheating is not sexual. I think a lot of it's emotional.
I agree 100%. And there was, and I do happen to know this, there was an emotional attachment between this guy and the woman that he cheated with. He was emotionally attached to her.
I'm sure.
So I think that's something that truly does need to be discussed. Absolutely. And it's so important if you're going to get.
Otherwise, why try again?
Yeah, exactly. Because if the thing that he says he was missing, she can never provide, he's going to do it again. Right? And again, it's just being honest with yourself and others. In this relationship, it's communication. If I'm in a relationship and I'm with somebody who is not affectionate, I'm going to eventually come across somebody who is affectionate and gives me that affection, and I'm going to want to leave the person that I'm with. I won't cheat.
Yes.
I won't cheat.
I know, but I'm saying, but yeah,
I may be emotionally involved before I leave the other person. That's just the way it happens.
You, but some people will just, we had one too many drinks. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, there's usually
it might happen, and you might hear about it. It might happen, and you may never hear about it.
Right,
it depends on the person in the scenario. Right.
Correct. Yeah.
But in somebody trying to date me, or me trying to date somebody and do things their way, if it's like not in my nature, isn't going to really give them what they want. Isn't going to give me what I want. So
right.
I don't know in her case. I don't know this woman, and I don't know anything about this guy, but I would imagine there's probably something missing on her side too. And she probably, if she thought about it long enough, could come up with whatever it is that's missing, because they don't match.
That's why I'm a big fan of, our episodes that we had a few episodes back, the list, right? And people are like, oh, that's crazy. I'm like, no, the reason I have, and I'm going to say it, the reason it's me communicating with myself when my brain's not working properly because I'm falling in love with somebody. That's all my list is. Exactly. It's not for you. It's not for dating apps. It's not for, yes, I can put some things on there. Look, if you get dirt under your nails and you're just, look, if you work with horses and stuff, or you're working a farm and you get dirt on your nails, that's not what I'm talking about either. I'm talking about somebody who's just lazy, dirty, that doesn't shower, doesn't take care of themselves. That's what I mean. Right. So I would definitely, that's not a thing that I have in my dating profile. I don't even have a dating profile that
No,
works
you
like
don't have a
that.
dating profile. This is all stuff in your head. Other than the list that we read off in the on the episode of the podcast,
Right.
I don't think David actually walks around with an actual list that anybody knows about.
I sure don't. Right.
Other than that we discussed the list because we wanted people to understand that there should be one.
Right. And
me, I have a dating profile or two, and I do have that list I gave on that profile.
Sure, of course. And that's not a bad thing. Your list is a little more accurate than mine. Mine's for me. I do if I have a dating app.
My list is for others to understand, so that they I really want people to just read it and decide whether or not they fit or they don't. Because I'm too old to screen people. It's just not
right. They should be able to screen.
People should be able to screen themselves.
Yeah, we know.
And that's also part of my list. If you
and
can't
that's part
do
of communication too, right? You're communicating with somebody you haven't even met yet. It's a good thing. And a lot of people go, "Geez, you're awful needy. You got all this list." And it's like, no. If you don't match my list, I'm communicating to you that we're not a match. Move on. Don't bother. Because and don't try to convince me. And I know I've heard you say it a million times that people will be like, well, you don't know what you're missing. Yeah, okay. I don't want that though. I don't want it, so I'm not missing it. It's something I don't want.
Here's what I deal with a lot, right? And just wanted to say this because it's funny. Somebody will message me, I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, so what are you looking for?" And I'm kind of like, "Well, besides what's already been in list, there's a whole 3 paragraphs of stuff that you could read and not ask me that question." But when they do look at it, well, what do you think? Well, I think that sounds like me. Oh, okay. Well, I most of that list describes me. Ooh, most of it. Which parts don't?
Yeah.
Which parts don't? Well, there's a couple things that this and that. Like, no, the list is not a negotiable thing where I give you the list and you come back with like 4 things on the list and then we go back and forth about how much we're going to.
Right. I can understand, like, for example, let's say I'm reading your list and it says, must read and, blah, blah, blah. And
mine doesn't say must read though, but
I know, but let's say it does. Yeah. I know it doesn't. And let's say it does. And I decide that I'm going to reach out to you anyway. And I go, can you explain that must read? Because I don't sit down and read like books like for entertainment, but I do read, things for research. That's it. Is that okay? Right. And that would be a question I would ask, right?
Yes.
So,
and I'd be like, yes.
Again,
is it in a book? Or whatever. Does it in words?
Yeah. Communication is crucial to any relationship, even with your friends, right? I can't stand. It's the worst thing I think when somebody's pissed off at one of their friends and they're bitching to their other friends about it.
Yes.
Like, have you told them? Well, no.
Go tell the person.
Then what are you telling me for? Like, go fix it with them. They're your friend.
I will say that I happen to have one of those personalities where the things that I complain about to me seem so obvious and stupid that like I feel like an idiot actually explaining it to the person I'm mad at just because it's so elementary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it's like, oh, if I tell this person what I think, I'm probably going to insult them in my description and say, how dumb are you? I mean, this is something that nobody should have to tell you, and so sometimes that's why I avoid it. But anyway, so for communication, of course, Dave said to me, "Let's discuss something like this," and I said, "Oh, communication sounds like this is a good topic." So of course, I made a couple of notes.
I noticed. I just saw you with notes, and I'm like, "Did you already get notes?"
I already have notes. I cannot. Dave doesn't understand this. I cannot go into a podcast without like some kind of structure or organization on what I'm saying. Even this is only like a few words. It's not even notes. It's just words.
That's not fair. You used the word organization because I'm very disorganized. So I know that's one of my list.
So
a woman needs to be organized for me to be able to have a successful relationship with her.
Because somebody
I'm not
to drive the ship. Otherwise, everybody drowns. Otherwise, and Dave ain't gonna do it.
Otherwise, we're gonna have my what are they called? They call them people with ADD. They make these piles. They call them I call them murder piles. They're not murder piles because it makes me want to murder people if I have too many piles. But there's an actual name for it with people with ADD. They make piles of stuff around. Because
I don't know.
They're trying to organize, and they can't handle stuff like spread everywhere. So there needs to be some.
Oh, okay. I don't know what it's called, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah. So go with your organizational stuff.
So no, I just wanted to. I mean, if we're talking about communication, I want to hit on some stuff that I would think that people generally deal with. We've talked about the asking and guessing dynamic before.
Yes.
And that's the asking is where you come straight out and say what you got to say, and you and some people that are guessers, and those are the ones that kind of hint around and hope you pick up on it. That's where a lot of conflict comes from, because the guessers are always thinking that the askers are extremely rude and uncouth and have no tact.
Right.
And the askers always think that the guessers are like wasting time and driving them crazy, not getting to the point and not really giving them the information they need. So just remember those things. Like, ask, are you an asker or guesser? Do you just come right out and say what you have to say? Do you ask people straight out for what you need? Right.
And that's a good thing. I'm glad you brought this up, because part of this story is this. One of the last things they said to each other on the phone was, "I'm done with this," he said, and hung up, or they hung up, whatever the case was. But he said, "I'm done with this," and has not responded to her since. So now she's left wondering, are they even together?
Of course, or is he truly? He said he's done with it.
That's my thing. That's my thing. If somebody tells me something, I hear them. Yes, I agree. She does not think that. She thinks he's just really upset and he needs time. And Lana is shaking her head no. And like, what
I would do with this, if I were her, see, I don't have time to not know if something is here or there.
It's killing her.
Yeah, this would not kill me. What I would do is this. I'd send it one text.
Yep.
And it would be a concise, clear text about, hey, you may have said this because you're upset, but I'm taking it as you're completely done. So if that's not what you mean, if I were you, I'd say something about it.
Correct.
Send. That's the way I would deal with it.
Yes.
And then I would go on with my life, because I've explained to him how I took it.
Right. And he should immediately respond and say, "I just need some time," or whatever. And then, give him all the time he needs.
I personally think, and I maybe it's wrong. Well, it isn't wrong for me. It works for me, and people around me know it's the way it is. But people that don't know me really well will say things that are extremely like, "Well, I'll just never do that again," and I'll take that. I'll take that as gospel if you tell me that.
Yeah.
And then when you do it, I'll call you out. I'll be like, "Didn't you say you were never going to do this again?"
Right.
Well, I was upset. Well, that's not my problem. That's your problem.
That's right.
That's what you said to me.
Yeah. Somebody said to me once in a heated moment, she's like, "I don't love you." And I said, "Okay." And then of course afterwards, she's like, "I'm so sorry. I was just mad." And I go, "Yeah, mad or not mad, you said it." Right. And I give this analogy to my kids all the time when it comes to like bullying or anything like that. I say, remember something, take this piece of paper. And I used to hand them just a white piece of paper I'd pull out of the printer. And I say, crumple it into a ball. And they'd crumple it into a ball. And I said, squeeze it really hard. I go, because that's you saying something that you shouldn't be saying to somebody.
Right.
If you don't truly
now
mean
try
it.
to smooth it out.
Now open that paper. It'll never be the same again. And to me, words, like, I'm not one of these guys that, sticks and stones break my bones, but names will never hurt me. I believe that to be true, but it does hurt you. Words can hurt you. Do I believe that they should be punishable by law? I don't necessarily think so. However, and you know how I feel about that, because
we'll go into it.
Yeah, that'll be a whole nother story. We should actually do a podcast on that. The woman, the girl there that text back and forth and her.
Oh, we're definitely going to do a Michelle Carter. Yeah, we'll do a Michelle Carter episode.
Yes, please, because that's
yes, please. Dave. It'll be Dave and I against the entire world, but that's okay.
I know.
But what I wanted to say was that, if you say things in the heat of the moment, well, I was just mad. I don't know. I'm not necessarily what in my world we call feelers and thinkers. I'm a thinker.
Right.
So if I say something to you, best believe I've thought about it well, and I've come up with my words and I've chosen them the right way.
Correct. If I tell you,
so that when I say something, I mean what I say.
That's right. If I say to you, if I was ever, heads up, everybody out in the world, if I ever say to you, we're done, and I'm not doing this anymore, or whatever the case is, I friggin' mean it, 100%. You never have to wonder, did he really mean that, or was he just mad? Nope, I meant it. Because I'm not one of those. I'm not a name caller. I don't go, hey, bitch. That's just a waste of my energy. It's silly. Right. I don't even understand it.
Do you believe, I believe this, and I want to float this by you, Dave. Do you believe that wishful thinking and politeness cause a lot of confusion? Meaning, wishful thinking is, let's say, on her end, like he's not being polite and he's saying something this you would assume is direct, but we don't know him and we don't know her, right? So these two have a history. Maybe she knows him better than we do, right? But
of course she does.
If he says something like that, her wishful thinking is that he doesn't really mean it. Because her saying he doesn't really mean it is not something she is really aware of. She doesn't know what he means by that, right?
That's correct.
Nobody really knows except him.
That's right.
So she's projecting wishful thinking.
Yes.
By saying, "Oh, he's just mad. He didn't really mean it."
Well, if she really believed that,
and saying
truly,
it in a
so yes, to answer your question, I do believe that she's going through wishful thinking, but I think she knows deep in her heart, because otherwise she wouldn't be getting so upset about it. If she truly knew, she wouldn't be upset. The problem is that she doesn't know. And I straight up said to her, ask him straight out. And she goes, "I'm afraid of his answer."
That's it.
Yes. And I said, okay, but here's the thing. Do you want to dwell?
It doesn't matter if it's an answer you don't want. Don't you want it quickly so you can figure out what you can start
yourself? Healing? Yes. So
or you can just move on.
What comes next? Right. You may want to. Maybe I don't know what makes you feel better, and I can't assume.
Pull the Band-Aid.
Yeah,
pull the Band-Aid.
That's the thing. To me, if I want to know something, I'm asking. I don't necessarily want to hear, and I get it. I get she doesn't necessarily want to hear. No, I meant it, and we're done. But here's the thing: that will suck, but then she can heal. Right now, she's kind of left in limbo, or leaving herself, in my opinion, in limbo.
Yeah. See, to me, limbo is worse than anything.
Absolutely. Me too.
And Dave will tell you, I don't care what somebody has to say to me. I don't care how horrible it is. I want to know immediately. That's just the way I am about everything.
Let's get it done.
I want to know right now. What am I dealing with? Some of you should see me when I go to doctor's appointments. Doctors can't stand me.
Right. Because don't beat around the bush.
I want to know.
Tell me.
What are you doing? Yeah. Yep. Give me the straight. I have no interest in bedside manner. I want the information. Mm-hmm. And there are people who really don't like when doctors are brash and direct and that kind of stuff. And I get it. But with me, I don't care. I mean, obviously I don't want you to treat me like shit. I would like me to be, a human being about it.
Right.
But don't sugarcoat stuff that you have to tell me. Don't beat around the bush with the information, because I have to put together a plan in my head of what I want to do about what is happening. And so it was probably 2012, so it's been 10 years, which is crazy. But I had a fibroid at one time that it killed me damn near. Like it dropped my blood levels to extremely, low. It was a long story. It was hemorrhaging is a long story. But anyway, you have to, your own body, you know how you are. And this is a little bit, I guess, we discussed this a little bit, but this is probably a little bit of something we should talk about people around you in your community and things that you're doing as a person. And doctors are, to me, and going into doctor's appointments and things like that, you need to really get the straight skinny on what if this is you and your body and your life. If you walk into a place and you think something's not right, you need to advocate for yourself. You just need to advocate for yourself. A lot of people will blindly listen to doctors because they figure, well, these doctors know more than me, but you only know you.
Yeah, nobody knows you better than you.
Right. The doctor can't tell
when you
you
don't
more
feel
about
right.
you than,
Yeah, there are people that go and say, I don't feel right. And they do tests and they go, everything's fine. And they go, okay, well, I guess this is just how I feel. I guess this is just getting old or whatever it is.
I would say that almost never does somebody walk into a doctor's office feeling wrong and get told that they're okay. And it turns out to be okay. It's always something that somebody missed.
Right.
Always.
Well,
at the end of the day, something at the end of the day comes up somewhere.
That's what happened with my mother. She went to the hospital and they listened to what she said and they listened to her lungs and they go, okay, you have pneumonia. That's it. They gave her medication. A couple of weeks went by on the medication. She didn't get better. They upped her dosage. Then she went in the third time. It turned out she had lung cancer. A simple test, her saying that it doesn't feel like pneumonia. It feels worse,
Right. And that's another thing.
Had she mentioned, the fact that, she's been having back pain for years. Like sometimes it's crucial, was put her on the floor and she'd crawl to the bathroom to go to the bathroom. It turned out that it was a cancerous laceration on her spine from lung cancer. And speaking of bedside manner, we went to the doctor and we're in the hospital and we said to the doctor, hey, we see the doctor, and it was a woman doctor. And we said, hey, listen, we've been waiting and you said you would have an answer for us by noon. How did the biopsy go? And she's like, well, we blah, blah, blah. And we're like, we've been waiting here. We were kind of getting pissy a little bit because we were all wondering. And she goes, she has cancer and she's going to die. That's how she said it. I was like, wow. That was just, that was just.
Now, I don't know if I would take it. I mean, I don't know. I think I would probably, that would sting a little if it were me, but I'd be like, all right, well, at least I have some information.
Well,
here.
then we had the next question, how long, right? So it's not like we got mad and said, you're being an ass. Can you be like gentle about it?
Right.
How do you gently tell somebody, yeah, your mother's dying. She's not going to live,
Right. Right. And I know I can understand. I gotta give it to doctors. I know sometimes they have to hand out some I can't imagine what.
Of course.
So it's not like it's easier for them to do. Obviously, they deal with it more than we do. So it's a little bit more clinical.
To them, it's a science, right? It's clinical. It's not. It's not an emotional.
But yeah, if you go to the doctor and you if something doesn't feel right, then keep bothering people until you get what you need from it. Whatever it is that they need to look at.
Right.
If you don't feel like they're really looking at the issue,
right,
or they're giving you a diagnosis that doesn't sound right, then
communicate. Right? And that's what we're talking about here today. Is we're talking about communication. Say what you mean what you say, and get to the bottom of whatever it is.
Right. And in my case, I went into the doctor. They eventually had to do vascular surgery on me, and I went in, and the doctor sat me down, and he's like, "Okay, let's discuss this. I want you to understand the procedure." And I gave him all the information. I'm like, yeah, the procedure's like this, and this is the percentage of success, and this is what you need to do, and here's how many hours it takes. And they were like, you know all this? And I'm like, you guys are putting me under the knife. Am I crazy? Why would I not know all that? Of course, I went and researched it all because I'm the one that's dealing with it.
That's right.
Oh, wow. I guess we don't need to tell you anything. And I'm like, well, I don't know why I would. Don't get me wrong. It's nothing wrong with sitting down with the doctor and the doctor explaining it to you, because some people, even if they read it, won't really get it.
Sure. No, I get it. Yep.
So that's fine. I'm not saying don't do it, but there'd be no way that I wouldn't. The stuff that I want done is technically some stuff I've researched, and there's been 3 or 4 different ways to do it, and I've decided this is the way I want to go. So it's not like the doctors are making the decision for me.
Right.
It's usually, okay, well, what are the chances of the success on this? What are the chances of the success
what are my options?
What's
and I'll tell you what I want to do.
All these things that, these are things that I'm a researcher anyway, so I don't expect anybody to be like me about anything, but it's you, it's your body. You're the one going in for surgery, or you're the one going in for treatment. So
yeah,
how could you not want to know every little last detail? Right. I don't care how uncomfortable it is. I don't care how sad or how weird it is or whatever it is.
You need to know so you can make a plan, and it's the same thing in a relationship. If you don't know, you can't make a plan. So in 1 second, we got 2. We're going to play a couple of voicemails that were left for us on our on the Love and Life with Lana and Dave phone line. So I'm going to play those for you now. So I'm just going to play them. They already say their names. So here we go. These are some voicemails we got. So we'll just take a little break and listen to them.
Sure.
Hey guys, it's Sandy Dean. Love your podcast. Love both you guys. Bye-bye.
Oh, we love you too, Sandy. Thank you very much.
We love you too. She's like one of our most avid listeners.
She really is. She's been good to us. She buys us coffee.
She does.
Yes. Okay. Also, I don't even know if she put her name on there, so it's not a secret. Now, here's another one we got.
You both rock. Love, Michelle.
Oh, Michelle, we do rock, huh? We rock.
Yeah, we do. I have to say.
We do.
I kind of agree with that.
We definitely rock. But
all right, we're done with our break. I have
that's
more.
It. We're done with our break.
Notes.
We have more notes. And here we go.
I have more notes. There's a thing called hinting, and I don't know that it's actually officially called that, but I grew up with hinting, and it's so annoying. And that's when some of your family members warn you about what other family members might want to hear.
Yep.
And that's like, it sounds like this. I took a trip to Florida. My mom and my aunt are both gone at this point. But years ago, my aunt lived in Florida, and my mother's up here. And I went to Florida to visit my aunt for a week. And when I got there, my aunt had put together like this her guest room. She had decorated it a certain way and put flowers out and things like that. And I am the most oblivious person on earth. If you're putting something somewhere and hoping I notice it, then God bless you, because it's not going to happen. I don't usually see a lot of things. So I came in, put my suitcase down in the spare room and whatever, and then came down the hall and never noticed the flowers.
Okay.
So my mother and my aunt have a conversation. Next thing you know, my mother says to me, well, so your aunt put flowers in your spare room, you might want to thank her for the flowers. It's a hinting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't tell my mother when I landed on the airport. So my aunt comes and she takes me in a corner and she says, she goes, your mother was worried about you when you were flying. And when you landed, you could have called her. You might want to mention something about that because she was upset that you didn't. So everybody's indirect. Everybody's telling somebody else something.
Right.
And so like through word of mouth, you're getting things that they think you ought to say, things that you didn't say, and somebody's upset. This is my whole life. This is how I grew up.
Yep, me too.
And that's called hinting. And so it's like, instead of just my mother just going, hey, could have slapped me on the head and been like, when you landed, you could have told me about it. I mean, that's all she had to do.
Yeah, mine was not hinting. Mine was demanding. Like my mother used to say, when we go over here, if they ask about this, this is what you say. And I'm like, wow, it was not. Yeah. And if I didn't, I was dead. I mean, it was, there was this, that was going to happen. There was no question. It was going to cause a brawl. I would get killed, Okay. So for me, it wasn't hinting so much. But I mean, I do get that, through friends and stuff. Oh, I'll do it. I'll call people in my family and be like, hey, it's so-and-so's birthday today. You should probably call them and, say happy birthday. Yeah. Maybe just, but that's a reminder to me. I'm not
that's
hinting.
More of a reminder.
If they choose not to, then so be it. That's you, but at least you know it's their birthday. Whatever you do with that,
this is like, I know what you're saying. It would always be like very close relatives and immediate family. And it was always like it's an aside. Everything was a sidebar with these people.
Right.
And that was it. Oh, well, somebody did this and you might have wanted to make a comment about it because they were upset that you didn't notice. I mean,
right. So if somebody was upset, again, this is part of communication, in my opinion.
Right.
If you're upset about something that I did, don't go to somebody else and have them come to me and tell me that I need to go and do that. I didn't do it. So you come tell me and go, hey,
yes,
it kind of bothered me. You didn't know. It didn't bother me. You didn't notice that I put flowers in the room for you. Say, well, sorry, and that's the end of it. And I just didn't realize. I thought you just put them there. I didn't
if you
know
knew
you
my aunt, you would understand. My aunt was like the type that she worked at Williams Sonoma for years. My aunt was the type that would have put flowers in that room every day, no matter who was in there.
Right,
that was how she was.
Right.
So it would never have occurred to me that it was for my benefit because that's how she was. Just a person who liked to decorate things in general in that way. So, but next thing you know, I'm now a terrible person for something I didn't even realize I did for something that I would never have noticed. But that was how I grew up. That's why I don't like. Honestly, this is why I cannot stand indirect communication.
Right.
Because of the way that I was raised.
It doesn't work. Indirect communication doesn't work at all. And and also, you had mentioned earlier, I think, in our conversation, not here in the podcast, but our conversation, our show notes, you had mentioned how people post stuff on the internet in hopes that the other person will see it and respond, not respond to it, but at least understand what they're trying to say instead of picking up the damn phone and saying what you got to say. You know what I mean?
And I want to say that so many times when I look through my feed, I'm like, I hate it. Who is this for? Yep. Who is this for? Because there's the entire world is looking at this going, what the hell is happening here? None of us know what you're talking about, especially when it's like incoherent. A lot of it sometimes it's just a run-on sentence that we don't know has to do with whatever.
Right. Exactly.
And it's kind of like, this is for some person that none of us are and don't need to read. Like this, obviously we can't do anything about it. It's your page. You do what you want with it. But
correct.
It's not going to solve anything by telling 3 billion people something that you wanted to avoid telling one person.
Right. I mean, because here's the thing, right? If you post something on the internet expecting one person to respond to that, or you're trying to get somebody's attention, you suck at trying to get somebody's attention or asking a question. Just make it.
You could be really non-confrontational, but that's ridiculous. Going back to my family, that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to be non-confrontational and polite because of the background that I came from. They saw that as a polite way to deal with things.
Yeah, but see, I wouldn't have even taken it that way. I wouldn't even have taken it that way. I would have thought, okay, so you're coming to me.
No, I wouldn't either, but that's just, I don't know.
I would take it totally like this. If somebody, let's say, Lana, you came to me and you go, oh, your friend, you did this for you, and you should probably say thank you, because if, it really bothered him that you didn't say thank you, I would immediately go, so my friend can't come talk to me. My friend, I immediately think of how I'm being talked about behind my back to two people that I care about.
Exactly.
Without that doesn't even make any sense. You got something to say to me, say it by all means. I'm not going to get mad. I may disagree with you, but it's not a big friggin' deal, no matter what it is. No matter what it is.
My family was very, very avoidant of face-to-face confrontation. To them, they thought that it was confrontational and it was a direct thing, and they thought it was impolite. Like I said, I don't know why they thought that, but for whatever reason, this was my childhood, and it was really frustrating.
You said your childhood.
Yeah, my childhood was a car crash. Yes. So we go through hinting and asking and guessing, and then there's mind reading, and mind reading is so in relationships is it's such a crucial part of so many relationships that are wrong or that are not going well. This mind reading thing,
right?
If you knew me, you would know that I want this. I shouldn't have to tell you that. Nobody should have to read your mind for something that you want and you're not telling them.
Correct.
That goes for testing. That goes for, there's more than one reason for it, but I used to read a lot of John Gray when I was a kid. And it was like, well, if you really want a guy to bring you flowers, then leave the vase at the door. Well, either the guy's going to bring you flowers or he isn't. But if you want them, ask for them.
Right.
I don't understand the thing where the guy has to bring you flowers and you didn't know.
Okay, that's no, a you thing.
I know where Dave's going with this. I know where Dave's going with this.
Yep.
Sure, if the guy you're with doesn't bring you flowers generally on his own, then he's probably not the right guy for you. I get it.
If that's what you want, correct.
But I'm saying, you can't bring your dog in the house and expect your dog to do dishes, right? That's just not what your dog's done. I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to equate dogs to men, but I'm just saying there's things that people do and things that they don't do, and expecting them to do something because you want it when they have no clue that you want it is weird to me.
Yeah, it is.
So weird to me.
It is.
There's no playbook that everybody's going by. There's
the thing,
no
right?
one big thing everybody knows and doesn't know.
Here's the thing. If you said, I love to have, let's say, for example, I'm dating somebody, and let's say we live together, and she says, I love to have flowers on the table. Well, I may bring her flowers. Right. That's different. I get that. You asked, you basically said, you told me something you liked. Now it's up to me to decide whether or not I'm the type of guy that will bring you those things that you like, or I'm not.
And that's fine. But it doesn't mean that he's a jerk if he doesn't.
No, correct. It
because you're not directly asking.
Right. But first, and there are women that will say, and men too, I don't want to have to ask. I want him to do it because he wants to do it. Okay. If you do want that, and I get that.
Really
I get there.
But I really don't get that.
Okay. So I do, because
Dave and I have had this argument
Yes,
before.
we have. And we're going to have it again. So
okay.
The
round one.
Round one. So the thing is that I'm very needy. I want what I want, and I don't want to have to ask for it. I expect that to be a compatibility that we have.
I know.
Now, if we don't have that compatibility, and I'm not getting what I want, like ladies, if you want a guy that brings you flowers and you have to ask for them, then he's just not your guy. I'm like that. I'm very much like that. I understand that if
I think I personally believe that flowers in themselves are just not they're not character traits of people.
No, they're not.
If you like flowers,
it's
and
gift
if you
giving.
don't tell them
right?
you like flowers, then they're not supposed to. How the hell are they going to know whether you like flowers or not unless you say something?
Right.
To me, it's that simple.
Right. Exactly. Because to me, flowers are a waste of money. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I won't bring flowers to somebody that really likes flowers. If she gets joy from them, then I would probably buy them for her. That's just me, though. That's the kind of person I am. Now, the difference is, and not all men are like that, and that's okay. The thing is that if I meet a woman who does not meet the needs, the things that I want without asking, then she's not the right person for me. If it matters that much to me, she's the wrong one. And it's not a conversation that, I really want you to bring me flowers and, you never bring me flowers or buy me gifts or blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not who you are as a person.
Yeah.
That's not who they are as a person.
My neighbor across the street's husband brings her flowers. Get out of here with that.
Not your relationship.
Right. Get out of here with that.
Not your relationship.
That's nothing to do with you. But there are people who really believe that. I don't know how to explain it and make it make sense, but there are people who think that there's something that men innately do, and if they don't do it, something's wrong with those men or women.
Right.
Where a guy is just supposed to, as a universal thing guys are supposed to, based on some textbook none of us have ever seen or read.
Well, no, it's
just be bringing you roses.
So the thing is that, and we've talked about this in past episodes. Years ago, a guy would come to the door on a first date and bring flowers for the mother, not for his date. It was for the parents, for their house. It was now what we do is we bring like a bottle. If if you're going to meet a guy for the first time, somebody's father, and you find out that he likes scotch, you buy a nice bottle of scotch, and you bring a pack of cigars or whatever it is. Whatever it is he likes. Right. And because that's what we were taught growing up, is you needed the family approval. It's not like today where the family don't mean shit to anybody.
There's no family.
Right. It's not like
today the family's not in the picture.
Correct.
Like in your dating scenario, you're typically not going to bump into somebody's parents as you're dating them, especially right away, the first couple dates.
Correct.
You're just never going to see the parents,
right.
Women used to live at home.
They would stay at home until they were married.
Get to them.
Correct.
Right. So in order to get a woman to get in a car and go to dinner with you, the parents would kind of have to know of you, and you would have to meet them in order to pick up their daughter. That's just the way it was.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you had to stop and think about it. Well, how do I make the best impression on this person's parents because they're trusting me with their daughter for 4 hours or whatever?
Yep.
And then when, the daughter came home, she'd come home and the parents would want to hear everything. They'd want the report of how polite was this guy.
That's right.
And did he open your car door, and did he pull out your chair when you got up, and all that kind of stuff? Because, back then accountability was it was a smaller circle, and everybody was more accountable, and everybody knew everybody better. And we've already talked about all this in a past episode.
We did. Yeah.
But, the mind reading thing to me, again, it is based on a playbook that maybe was coming from the 50s and 60s, but we just don't live in that kind of time anymore.
No, we don't.
I don't think that anybody should sit back and expect somebody to do something they've never mentioned and completely ruin them as a person character-wise because they didn't do it without being told. Again, it doesn't mean you guys are compatible, but I don't think you should attach as much judgment on a person for something like that. Well, if a guy really loved me, he'd just do my dishes and he wouldn't say anything about it. That's just the silliest thing I've ever heard. But again,
well, I should put that on my list. I hate doing dishes. You come over and do my dishes, you win my heart.
Right. And I have come over and done Dave's dishes, but it didn't do me any good because I wasn't trying to get anywhere. But playbook for you is your personal. Always remember that you have your playbook, something that you grew up learning based on your parents, your environment, everybody around you that taught you whatever when you were a kid. Understand that whoever you're dating has a playbook as well, and it's just not going to match yours. It'll be unless you're both in the same neighborhood.
Right.
And a lot of people do end up dating and going out with each other and getting married from the same neighborhood because they get all these little intrinsic.
Right. They were raised in a certain community standard.
Right. So everything kind of makes sense to them in a certain way. And that is it probably does, I don't want to say solve a lot of problems, but there's probably a lot of little details that you don't have to deal with as much when you come from the same block or 2 blocks apart or whatever. But mostly at this point, Dave, you're going to meet people that you really you didn't grow up with and didn't have the same cultures or values that you did because they're from somewhere else.
Right.
So you have to understand that the person you're dating is never going to completely be exactly how you are. And so you have to kind of understand.
Not. Yeah, of course.
That you're you and they're them and try to figure out.
And you can communicate that. And there are certain differences that can be manipulated a little bit. I believe that, we all have the ability to bend a little bit. Now, I say it all the time, and I'll continue standing by this. People don't change. Situations.
No, I agree with that.
And, if I'm not the type of person that is, if I'm not romantic, let's say, then I'm not romantic. If you want a romantic guy, then. But
me, Dave, to me, romantic is a word that is.
It's
what does it mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I always ask people, what do you mean by romance? And people will tell me, well, what do you mean? What do I mean? They think that romance means something. And I got to be honest.
Different to everybody.
Everybody thinks romance means something else.
Of course. You have
to ask what somebody means by what they say. Well, one of my favorites is, hey, so what do you do for fun? I go through this all the time. Define fun. Well, fun. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. I think I think it's fun to sit and read, a half a book about Unix commands. I don't think that's what you're asking me.
Right.
I think you want to know whether I like going to amusement parks. So, like, what are you talking about when you say fun?
Are you looking for date ideas? Is that what you're asking me?
Right. When somebody says, what do you do for fun? It's never going to be, I will never answer whatever the heck it is that they think I'm going to say.
Right.
I'll be surprised if it ever is what they think I'm going to say. So I always stop and go, let's stop and ask what fun means before we get into this conversation, because I think fun is going off by myself with my dog for 3 hours and walking through. Now you can hiking at 9 o'clock at night.
You can ask the question, did you do anything fun this weekend? Because that's totally different. And you'll say, I had a great weekend. I went hiking with my dog and I did this. I did that.
Yes, because the question is not a
right.
It's a yes or no.
Well, and if you say yes,
what did you do?
Then you'll tell. Yeah. So
it.
yeah.
So I just wanted to. Those are my little words there. Also, types of communication matter. So some people like to text, some people like phone calls, some people like emails, some people like person to person, and none of that is right or wrong. It's everybody is different.
I have to disagree with that. I'm going to say
I don't disagree with that.
So here's the problem, right? Text here, and I was just telling somebody the other day that text is very open to interpretation. Okay.
Yes.
And let me say to you, if you said something to me and I go, "Wow, I didn't," that's crazy. That's stupid. That's crazy. I would never do that. Now I put it in text. Am I going, "Wow, that's crazy. That's stupid," or am I going, "Wow, that's crazy. That's stupid"? You don't know, and you're going to pick whichever one you choose. One is right and one is wrong. And you have a lot of those. That's
why you ask. This is what communication is about. You ask.
Right. Are you saying that
never
I'm
assume?
Right. Well, and that's right. That's the problem. So for me, text just takes too long because not only do I have to give my statement, but then, and you know me, I like to talk, right? So, and you can tell by my voice and my inflection what I mean. If I'm putting it in text, not only do I have to put it in text, but then I have to explain what I mean as well. Because
this is tedious for you.
It's tedious.
Texting, bad. It's just for you.
Yeah, it's tedious, and I don't like reading it either. I don't want to sit there and read a book.
So that's this. But what this explains. But it is communication. This is my point. That is Dave's particular, not his particular preference.
Correct.
That's fine.
Yes, have one.
It's totally within his preference to not like text.
Yes,
and I prefer text because for me, there's nothing I really want. I mean, for the most part, unless we're discussing a specific thing. Text is not, I'm not tied to it. I don't have to go through pleasantries with text. I like it because it's short, it's to the point. I can give you one sentence and we're done.
See, to me, text is, can you stop and get a loaf of bread on the way home? There's no question.
To me, I wouldn't text, for the most part, I don't text people anyway unless there's a specific point I'm making.
Right.
So people that don't like text are more like people that like to discuss things that aren't like, they're more interested in the small talk in the chat and the whatever. To me, that stuff's probably better over the phone or in person.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the voice communication for me, I like to be able to hear their meaning because you're
a feeler, Dave. That's why.
Well, I am absolutely.
All right, you are.
But
and that's why, and that's fine.
Again, the open to interpretation, and then I have to ask, did you mean this or this? And then they have to say, what do you mean? And then it's a whole nother conversation, because I think
that texters that like texting probably don't have this problem because they don't interpret it wrong.
I've read people's text, what they send to other people. They screenshot it and send it to me, and I look and I go, yeah, that can be taken two different ways. You know that, right? And
right, but you've seen my text outside of, stuff that has to do with dating, which is not even, it's all in a different category.
Correct.
My friends and I have one friend, and I swear, I'll have to show you the text at some point. It's like there are probably 3 or 4 word sentences going back and forth, and we totally, both of us get what's going on.
Right.
Nobody's taking it the wrong way. There's no, to me, there's no feelings involved. We're communicating data.
Right.
So somebody says, listen, let's do this. Oh, you know what? This is not good for me. Let's try this day. Oh, okay, great. I'll see you then. Done.
I use text.
That's it.
I use text to communicate if I'm afraid to approach the person in person. Like yesterday when I sent you that text, I just wrote, oops, I screwed up. And she goes,
Yeah,
screwed up
wow.
how? And I sent her a picture. So let me just back
You
up
said
from
I screwed up, and I said you screwed what up?
Yeah.
Because, of course, he had no context to
No,
it.
I
And then
didn't.
he sent me a picture of lobster. I'm kidding.
So
Now I have to go eat it again because we're off.
we're off. So it's kind of funny because I had lobster and she's like, you suck, blah, blah, blah. Because we that's one of our things is we get lobster together. So, and we haven't seen each other in a long time, in fairness. And so we're going to have lobster. And so then she tagged me in a Facebook thing and said, here you go,
I
Dave,
said,
or something. Or
Yeah, I said something more. I said something worse than that. Like,
yeah, you did.
I can't remember what I said. Now I have to go look at it. But
I know it was funny to say the least. But so she tagged me in it, and it was her having lobster, and she goes, "Now we're even. Next time we have," and this was just the day before yesterday. She goes, "Next time we have lobster together," and I go, "Deal." And the next day, I got lobster. I don't know. It was just I went in and I'm like, "What do I want?" I'm like, "I'll have a lobster roll," and then I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so dead," you know.
So then he wouldn't have been dead if he didn't tell me. He's not that worried about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent it to me.
Right.
And then he sends, I screwed up.
Yeah.
Screwed up what? And then he sends me lobster. I'm like, oh, you're a jerk. So, okay.
Yeah. That's not what you said.
I did say,
you said,
I think I said something. Yeah,
you said,
it was a little more. Yeah.
That's what she said.
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. See, she pretends she
swore
doesn't.
at him. I dropped an F-bomb on him.
She pretends she doesn't drop the F-bomb, but yeah, I hear it. I get it all the time.
Oh, no, I don't pretend I don't.
Oh,
I just don't do it as much here. I think it's my radio history.
Yeah,
I
think so.
Used to be in a
I
microphone,
think so
and
too.
I just drop all of it.
Sometimes when I drop the F-bomb here, sometimes I'm like, ooh, that just feels a little wrong because I got a microphone in front of my face.
Yeah.
And usually when there's a microphone in front of my face, because I didn't do a lot of radio, but I was in the band and I use the F word all the time. But these types of microphones that we're using, so you can't see them, but they are I get this big stand and the microphone's hanging down in front of me, and it's a studio microphone. It's a studio microphone, and anytime that I've ever been in front of one of these, I was at a radio station, so I couldn't drop the F-bomb. So it's just the
FCC will come get you.
That's right.
So now we're on a podcast where we can say whatever we want, but still, I try very hard not to just be dropping. I don't mind dropping an F-bomb, but it's got to be a good intended F-bomb. It's got to hit just the right way, Otherwise, I won't do it.
I mean, I tend to drop more F-bombs on here than
he does. He gets excited.
Yeah, I do.
He gets excited. But anyway, that your form of actually the story I was telling Dave earlier was I belong to a group of people who are navigating attachment theory, right? So attachment theory is how you were born and raised and what kind of attachment as a person you have to other people based on like what you're raised, your family, your childhood history was or whatever. So
correct.
I happened to be dismissive avoidant, which meant I had to do a lot of self-soothing as a kid. I didn't get a whole lot of attention and affection and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, there's a group I belong to where somebody was asking a question. A lot of people that are dismissive avoidance or fearful avoidance, we come into the group and ask questions about relationships we're in and how we're dealing with something that's going on, whatever the situation is. And somebody came in and they made a list of things that, hey, the guy that I'm with doesn't really understand attachment theory, but he's sort of curious about it, but I don't think he's ready to learn. And here's all the things that he does. And I'm going to tell you all the things that he used to do and now he changed. And it's like the beginning of the list is nice and it's fine. I mean, none of it really mattered either way to us because it's all stuff that particular person, it works for them. And it didn't mean the guy was bad or wrong. It was just who he was. And so none of it was really alarming. But then at the end of the list, this person started to say, well, they were doing this, but then they stopped doing this. What do I do about that? They were doing this, but then they stopped doing this. And it was kind of like, instead of just telling us how they changed, they started like it just took on a manipulative tone that if I'm a dismissive avoidant and fearful avoidance, mostly dismissives, we are triggered by that tone. And in this post, there was a very heavy tone of, I don't like the way this is happening and I would like to change this person's behavior. We could sense it. And so, my response was this person, some of it was had to do with texting. Well, he texts me every day now, but then we got intimate recently. And then once we did that, then he stopped texting me as much. And sort of like she was leading heavily on how much text this guy was sending. And I'm like, I was like, I could be completely smitten by a guy. I could be like in love with a guy and never want to see anybody the rest of my life and still not text him every day. Like it has nothing to do with how I feel about the guy.
Right. It depends on the
just not
person.
connected.
Correct. So ask.
So I said to her, if this guy is increasing his text, it's probably because he's aware that that's what you want. And so
Right.
you're saying, oh, he's texting more now because he's becoming more of a caring, loving person. That's not what's happening. He's
Right. No.
giving you what you want. You've explained at some point that you want more text, or he's feeling that that's what you want. He's giving you what you want, but it's not what he does.
Correct.
So of course he reverts back to his default, which is to text not every day. Or she said something like, I text him, and sometimes it would take a half a day for him to respond, which to me is nuts. And it's not nuts because it's terrible that somebody would wait. It's nuts to me that somebody would sit around for half a day and then count off minutes.
Right. Notice that
for somebody to text them back.
Yeah. It's
right. If you could tell that I haven't texted you in half a day and I have to listen to that every single day, you're paying way too much attention to my cadence and what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
And we all kind of have lives. And to me, texting is not a leash. I believe that texting is like email, but live, meaning you send what you need to send. And when I can answer and when I feel like answering, I will send a text back.
That's right. That's right.
Because I'm not tied to this. This is an ongoing conversation, and it should be casual, and it's communication, and it's convenient. And
right.
To me,
if I'm out somewhere and somebody sends me a message, and I have friends going, "Wow, that you rude," because I didn't respond. I may open it and read it and go, "Okay, that requires a response. I'll get to it later." Because I'm sitting down with some friends having dinner or whatever I'm doing. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'll get to it when I get to it. It's not urgent.
Exactly. Are you in the hospital? Are you dying right now?
Right. I have that set up that I have a special way for people to get through to me in case I'm in a meeting. So if they call me, it goes to voicemail if I'm in a meeting, of course. Mm-hmm. But there's a special thing that they can do, and I will know this might be an emergency. I'll excuse myself from the meeting or whatever I'm doing. Doesn't matter. And I will answer the phone. Well, I find that people take advantage of that, and they do it anyway, even when it's not an emergency. And that's so frustrating to me. So now you're like the boy who cried wolf. And now when you call me multiple times in a row or do the little trick that you're supposed to do, I still don't answer it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and that's too bad because
honestly, for me, if it's actually almost easier to text me if it's an emergency. I'll see it quicker because my phone's on Do Not Disturb almost all the time. It doesn't even ring.
I won't.
So
I won't see the text because if I'm seriously busy.
Well, yeah.
I don't look at my phone. I mean, I do have the watch and I can see that somebody texted me, but I don't have it set up so I can read the text on my watch because I don't want to be looking at my watch every 2 seconds either while I'm at a meeting or something. Right. I don't want people to go, I've had people say to me, well, you got a date? And I'm like, no, my phone just keeps dinging. I don't know what
my phone is set up so that when I go into something urgent like that, I can just quickly D&D my phone and my watch and nothing comes up. And the only time it does come up is when I'm not, so I can turn it on and off.
Right.
It's probably
and again, even if you're in a relationship with somebody, that's part of communication. Listen, when I'm in meetings and stuff, if I don't respond, this is why. Especially if they have a problem with people that don't respond quickly. And I tell people that all the time. Hey, if I don't respond, like I reached out to all the needy people in my life and I tell them I'm recording a podcast today. So there you go. Yeah. And
I did not.
Right. You don't have to.
Nobody that's in my life yes, I don't have to because everybody knows, even when I'm not recording a podcast, my life's pretty much the same. If somebody really has to find me, they'll find me. But most people know. But to me, if you're in a relationship, obviously, again, there are things that to me, pragmatism-wise, I don't understand. So I don't understand good morning text. I don't understand good night texts. I don't understand texting for the sake of texting. And I understand that some people, to them, it's like a human bonding thing. There's some kind of emotional bonding thing that they're doing by texting. To me, the words have to make sense. There has to be a reason for the words. So if you send me stuff that's nonsense, I'm going to ask you, what are we doing here? What's the point? But if I'm with somebody that's their thing, I'll understand it. But for the most part, to me, texting to text is just weird because to me, texting is a form of just trying to get data back and forth. Anything that I do is data, right? But if I'm going to bond with somebody, to me, sometimes the phone and sitting in person, that's really where I It's not like I don't bond with people, but I just don't do it over text. To me, text is like a place to drop information. You know, that's just the way I look at it. It's not, nobody has to go by my way of things, but that's just the way I use it. But like,
Oh, you know what that means?
what does it mean?
That means we're running out of time.
What is this, an award show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We're running out of time.
There's my music. I can't. Oh, gotta go. Yeah, we are running out of time, but that's okay. We do all the time. So
I know we
new.
do. It's not.
So I think we've covered everything.
think-
The only thing I wanted to close out with is make sure that I don't think people should be hinting around. I think they should be very direct with their information.
Yes. And
Obviously, don't insult the person, and make sure they're asking for the information you're giving them. But give them a straight answer so that they don't have to.
right. And what about people that are not
act-
receiving? Let's give some advice to my friend who's going through this on the other
Well,
side.
you heard mine.
I did. But I think that what she needs to do is she needs to ask for
I would specifically
clarity.
send a text, and I'm the type that like I will open and close my text. My text will do everything it needs to do, and I'll be done.
Yep.
So whatever needs to be said will be included in that text, and that other person can either pick it up and run with it, or they can leave it. But I'm going to be done when I send it. That means I'm not going to lose sleep. I'm not going to stop my life.
You're going to assume that no
I'm going to
response
send
is a response, right?
Exactly. I always do that. No response is a response. Meaning, if you don't answer me, I'll take it as a this. Thanks.
Well,
have a nice life.
There's
No
a
problem
law.
with it.
There's actually a law in Massachusetts that states if I send you a text and I go, "Hey, you owe me $1,000. When am I getting my money?" and you don't respond, I can use that in court as your admission.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We'll have to discuss that
A non-response
at some point.
is an admission.
Okay.
If you don't respond, because if you don't owe me $1,000, you would say, "What are you talking about? I don't owe you," right? But the courts assume, and they will.
Well, what if
they will take
what if
that.
you're somebody that I don't know when you're sending me a text?
No,
accidentally
it wouldn't.
and,
It wouldn't
you know.
be somebody. It wouldn't be somebody that you don't know. It would be somebody that you did business with, or there has
Okay.
to be other proof as well. But
That's the only time I wouldn't respond to that is if like
Right, of
somebody's
course.
scamming me and
Yeah,
sending
yeah.
me crap that.
a non-admission,
don't.
a non-response is an admission of acceptance.
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, you know what?
And I think that's the case. in this
I have.
too.
I've gone through. I've had one or two people in my life that were stalkers. I have, and one of them was one of the tactics of stalking is to say it's almost like they'll say anything to get you to respond. It doesn't even matter what it is that you say.
Right.
They're just trying to get that reaction back. And so I would get phone calls saying, "Listen, I thought the two of us were blah blah blah, and I guess I haven't heard from you. So I guess that I'm assuming like if I don't hear from you, I'll know that we're good." Like they would take the non-response from me as like an invitation for them to continue harassing me.
Right.
And I would just be like, "Here's a person who's just talking to themselves in my voicemail. They're just talking to themselves."
Right.
And then finally, somebody did tell me, "Listen, here's how you deal with this. You give them one response and you say, look at you, but here's all that stuff I need to say to you, and stop bothering me. You continue bothering me. I'm going to whatever,
Right.
record it or find out, make sure that somebody's aware that you did it, and then that's it. Then everything they do after that, is now they're
Stalking.
on borrowed time because
Correct.
you've said, I don't want to stop contacting me, stop calling me, stop whatever," which I did, but. I was just like, to answer this guy is like, I felt like it was a bottomless pit and I just didn't want to respond because I felt like if I did, it was going to make it worse.
Right. You're beginning a conversation is what you felt like you were
Right.
gonna do.
And so
Right.
somebody finally said, yeah, that's all true, but you need to leave for legal reasons. You need to just contact this person once and give them a very stern, strict, direct warning.
No.
that you are not talking
Right.
to them anymore. No, whatever. Stop doing it. And I said, okay. And I did. But yeah, people will interpret silence as whatever they want. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think for this woman, my response was, and I think I said it earlier, but I'll restate it, is that she needs to, it doesn't have to, I don't think it should be paragraph after paragraph because
No.
there's no need for that.
Nope.
It should be 3 or 4 sentences. Listen, we had an argument. This happened, that happened. You recently said you were done. I'm going to, were you upset about this? If you were upset about this and you don't mean what you said, fine, but I'm going to take it as you're completely finished. If that's not the truth, then I'm sure I'll hear from you, but I'm done.
Right. Unless you tell
worrying
me
about
otherwise.
this.
Right. Here's the
Unless
thing.
you tell me otherwise.
Right.
I'll assume that you mean forever.
Right. Exactly
and then
right.
Once I'm done that, all that does is, obviously it communicates to him. He's going to read it. Nobody's going to not read that.
Mm-hmm.
So did he see it or not? You don't have to worry about that. He might not tell you he did, but he'll see it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's really for your own personal peace of mind that you said what you had to say.
Yeah.
Because you need to move on, right? And so you just kind of, okay. You can only put it out there in the ethos. He can read it, not read it. He can put it on toilet paper, wipe his ass with it, whatever.
Right.
But it'll never be said that you didn't finish. You didn't say what you had to say. You didn't respond, whatever. Because all that stuff is closure for yourself.
Yep. And I agree.
So am I right? That's my
agree,
response.
and I think this needs to happen. I agree with the text. Send the text and say, I'm assuming that you meant what you said.
Yeah.
And so I will leave you alone and I will move on. And if you read this and I don't hear from you, I'll assume that that's what you wanted. And I'm assuming that's what you wanted already. But, if that's not what you meant and you're just upset, then let me know immediately, pretty much, because otherwise it could be too late, right? I mean, I could go out and, be like, hey, I just met somebody and they seem cool. And next thing you know, you're bumping uglies. But, and then he's like, I didn't mean it. Well, you didn't tell me.
Too bad.
That.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's what you said. So
that's on him at this point. So
that reminds me of one more thing. I know we got to go.
I know.
If ever you're in a situation where you talking to somebody that you like and you both made a plan that you may want to do something at some point and you're not sure, somebody leaves you kind of hanging and, hey, want to do something together on Saturday? Yes. Okay, let's discuss it. And you don't know whether or not they really want to do anything or not. Then when somebody else approaches you and says, hey, let's do this thing on Saturday night, rather than sit around your house and wait for that person to respond, you call them and you give them an option to respond.
Yep. You either let me know or...
And you say, hey, listen, I would love to go out with you on Saturday night. You can use this piece of voice if you want. Take my voice and use it.
That's right. I'll be quiet so you
Hi,
can record it.
I would love to go out with you Saturday night. It sounded like a really good idea. We had some good places we wanted to go, but I really haven't heard from you. And I just got an invitation to go do something else. I'm assuming this is what you want to do. But if I don't hear from you by, this is maybe Thursday or Friday at 5 o'clock, I'm going to say yes to this thing over here. Because I don't really, it doesn't matter. We'll make plans to do something another time, but I just haven't heard anything either way. We haven't really made solid plans.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go do this thing unless I hear back from you.
Yeah.
And you want to get somebody, if somebody likes you or somebody's interested, you want to get a quick response. That's what you do. Well, somebody asked me if I wanted to do this, and it sounds like a really good idea, but I know we were talking about doing something, and I don't want to be disrespectful to the plans.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm going to go do this. If I don't hear from you by a certain time, I'm going to go do that.
Right. I'm going to make.
And I'm just letting you know.
Plans. Yeah, because I've done it the other way.
Stop.
I've done it the other way, where somebody made plans with me. I hadn't heard from them. Somebody else offered me plans that were really cool, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to do that, but I already have plans. And then I never hear from that person, and I'm sitting here going, well, everybody's already been driving for 3 hours, so I'm not going to the other thing, and that pisses me off. So had I done what you did, it would have been smarter. I would have been like, listen, if I don't hear from you by, tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'm taking off and going to do something else.
And this is what I mean. Dave and I have made plans where we've had a conversation not long ago in a couple of podcasts where if it's a solid plan and you're definitely doing the thing, that's different.
Yes. If it's somebody that you know
when you guys
already.
are like tentatively discussing, hey, what's good for you? Well, I don't know. Well, all right. Well, Saturday's free. Well, all right, let's get together Saturday. And you guys don't really like set it in stone about where you're going and what time.
Right.
And the other person sort of drops off and you really don't have information. Then you do this.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, somebody asked me if I wanted to go go-kart racing on Saturday. And that sounds like it's like an opportunity for me to go do thing. But I don't want to, I really would rather go hang out with you. However,
yeah, I don't know if we're really hanging out, so I don't want to blow off something.
Obviously, you don't want the other person to think, well, I'd rather go do this other thing, but also you want an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So you say, well, listen, I'll give you till...
It's communication.
I'll give you till 5 o'clock, Thursday night.
Right.
To let me know either way what you want to do. And if not, they need to know. I got to give them an answer.
Yes.
Or I can't be in on this thing.
Right. I mean, there's been many times where Lana and I will have open plans that, but neither one of us are going to be like, oh, well, I'm sure she's not sitting there like with her thumb in her ass waiting for me to show up, because we haven't got to that point,
Right. It's only if Dave and I make up, like, okay, Dave and I are very precise about that.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, all right, it's this day at this time.
Right.
And I don't think really for any length of time that we've ever had like a thing where neither one of us showed up for something.
Right.
Most of it's over the phone anyway, and it's usually this podcast that we're doing.
Right. I mean, it's like, how about noon? Okay, great. Done.
Right.
We don't talk about it again. Her phone rings at 11:57.
Yep. Or 11:55 or whatever. It's usually right before.
Yep.
And that's fine. And if we're ever going to get together in person, then
we do the same thing.
Both of us will just go and be there at this specific time. But if Dave and I were kind of talking about it and we thought that it sounded good, that like next Sunday would be good for something, but we didn't really.
Right.
That's how I would deal with it. Something would come up Sunday that I wanted to do. I'd say, ooh. Yeah. Hey, I just got an invitation to do this thing on Sunday, which sounds cool to me. However, I know we were talking about doing a thing, and I don't want to disrespect that.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we're doing something, give me a call back by a certain time.
Yeah, we actually do that. Yeah, we actually do that. I mean, we usually talk. I mean, there's not a lot of messages being left between the two of us. Usually we have a conversation. And sometimes it's scary because when one of us answers the phone, we could be in it for the long haul, as you can tell by our podcast. When we get off, when we're done with the podcast, we sometimes continue to talk for a couple hours. Yeah. And I'm like, dude,
it's I don't know.
It's crazy. But okay, the podcast today was brought to you by Nick's Place. And definitely go eat there. I might actually. No, I'm not going to go there today.
And thanks to everybody who's been calling and leaving us messages.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And sending us messages on all of our platforms, any kind of information that they're sending us or questions that they have. And Dave brought us the story today via somebody that wanted to have us discuss it. So, it's always good to bring topics in.
Yes, please.
And today we made a good one out of that particular situation.
Out of somebody else's pain. We're sorry.
Yes, we took else's pain, and
we're sorry that you're going through pain. But thank you for the ability for us to do our podcast. We do appreciate you.
With some important information.
Yes,
I think for no matter what it is you're going on in life, your job, your family, your relationship, your friendships, all of that should have some good communication. And so anyway, but we will be talking to you next week. And before we go, we have to make sure that you guys are aware that you can buy us a coffee. Tell us all about that, Dave.
buymeacoffee.com/Lana and Dave. You can buy us a coffee there, and we will drink it happily. And we will thank you personally. Don't forget, you can leave a message. Do you have the number? Because I don't. Hold on, I can get it if you don't have it.
Not in front of me.
Okay.
Isn't that awful?
Yeah, it is. We need.
I got to write it down and put it next to mine.
You got notes. Microphone. All right. So you can call us and leave us a message, leave us a voicemail, leave us a story, and you can tell us in the story, say, here's my story. Please don't use my name, and we won't.
Yep.
If you want, if you don't tell us not to use your name specifically or don't use this, we could possibly play it on air like we did the other two today. Yep. The number is 1-800-894-2158. Again, that number is 1-800-894-2158. Write it down. And you can leave us messages. You could tell us a joke. We love jokes. Yep. Somebody tell us a joke. Nobody's done the joke thing yet. Come on, somebody. I know.
Well,
tell us a joke.
People have called and told us that we're wonderful, though, so we're not going to say that we don't like that.
Yet, no, we do like that.
Coming.
Yes, please.
You keep that coming.
Absolutely.
All right. We will talk to you next week with a, hopefully, we would like to do a listener episode, and we'll be doing that soon, where we actually have listeners.
Yes.
We have some sound bites from listeners and messages from listeners. We'll compile all that.
We find that very sexy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
I know. You give me a toy, I'm going to play with it. You guys have a wonderful day, and we will catch you next week. I've been David.
I have been Lana.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Hey, you just listened to Love and Life with Lana and Dave. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share the podcast, leave us a comment or review, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. We'll see you soon.